Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way.
So there's some problems going with NATO. Supporting Ukraine has put a tremendous amount of pressure on NATO, especially the Eastern European states, because for the last couple of decades, NATO normally gangs up on third world countries. They'll gang up on somebody like Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria, and even North Korea way back in the day. But the idea of going against Russia and a reality check of what it would really be like a full-blown war against Russia has caused a pause with a lot of these leaders. So it looks like there's some fractures in the armor of the vaunted NATO alliance. And it looks like if World War III does pop up, or not even World War III, but if Russia makes a major attack, if one of these countries like Poland wants to get involved in the Ukraine war, directly involved, because they're already belligerent, but if they want to get directly involved in that war and Russia goes after Poland, it's very likely that these Western European countries, the United States, is not going to come to Poland's aid directly, because the question becomes, do we risk full-blown nuclear war to save an Eastern European country that these people look down on anyway? So we got fractures in the armor, and a lot of the support for the Ukraine war seems to be waning. First of all, it's not in the news, in the public eye. People don't give a damn as much. The first several months, people kind of cared. The first year or so-ish, people somewhat cared. It's been a year and a half, over a year and a half, and a lot of people just don't give a damn. And a lot of the people in Europe, especially Eastern Europe, the citizens, are sick and tired of it, because they're coming to realize that their role, especially when you look at these Baltic states, a lot of these countries are realizing that their role is to just be cannon fodder. So they will get ravished and annihilated by the Russians, while countries like France and England cower. This is the sentiment of a lot of people. And in addition to that, these countries already have issues among themselves. So people back in the day thought that creating this alliance would just completely give US control over Europe, and it largely has, but it can't have full control because these countries have issues that go back centuries. So we got Zelensky showing up to a NATO summit thinking that he was going to get a guarantee of admittance, saying that possibly, maybe, could be, after the war is over with Russia, if the West's fantasy comes true that Russia completely withdraws from Ukraine and Ukraine has Crimea and all the territory, that Ukraine will be admitted to NATO. And we got these people over here at this NATO summit. They were more interested in their own agendas. You got the leaders of France and Greece and Poland, all these countries. They're trying to see what they can do for their own country. They're not worried about Ukraine. Zelensky is over there. He's standing alone. People just quickly shook hands with him, walked away. Like, look, man, you're not the star of the show. This is a NATO summit. You may have come over here for something. You're getting your ass kicked by Russia right now. But we got our own agendas right now. So get the hell out of my face. So he didn't get what he wanted. So he was very disappointed in that. And he went to the UN because he's kind of seeing a lot of this support waning, even though Western media kind of hides what is actually going on over there. So Zelensky took a shot at Poland. He started sneak dissing the leadership at Poland. Let's take a look.
And it is alarming to see how some in Europe, some our friends in Europe, play out solidarity in political theater, making thriller from the grain. And they may seem to play their own role, but in fact, they are helping set the stage to a Moscow actor.
And Poland has summoned Ukraine's ambassador over those remarks. Warsaw's deputy foreign minister said that they were hurtful to the Polish people.
The statement that countries such as Poland are supporting Russia is completely inconsistent with reality.
So Poland wasn't too happy about what he said. So Poland and Ukraine are now at odds. United States was using Poland as a base to send weapons to Poland and then to Ukraine because the United States didn't want to go directly to Ukraine. So right now, Poland said, you know what? We're going to ban all grain imports. Ukraine is already devastated. Economy is completely destroyed. It's only alive right now because the United States is spending billions of dollars to prop up the Ukraine economy. But Poland is saying, you're not going to import any grain products to our country. Screw you. Let's take a look, in fact, at some of the stuff that the Polish leader said.
Wysyłki broni, bo my teraz przede wszystkim zbroimy się sami, ale hub w Rzeszowie, specjalne centrum.
So I don't have a translation for that, but apparently he was clapping back at Zelensky. You got the president of Ukraine, president of Poland, taking shots at each other. And in addition to Poland banning grain imports, they told Ukraine, we're also done transferring weapons to y'all. United States DOD is upset about that, trying to convince Poland to just do what the hell they tell them. But no grain transports and no weapons transports from Poland to Ukraine. There's fractures in this NATO arm. I'm trying to tell you, because Poland is realizing that if they get attacked by Russia, if they get into a full-scale war with Russia, they would probably not, very likely not see boots on the ground from American soldiers and from UK soldiers. And the Polish leaders, they know exactly what's going on the ground, even though the Western media, like I keep saying, the Western media is trying to say, Ukraine is winning, Ukraine is winning. The Russians are incompetent and they're weak. The Polish people know exactly what's going on. They know that Ukraine is being annihilated. We have reports now that over 500,000 Ukrainian men are dead in America's proxy war. So I'm going to read a quote from the Polish president to see what he had to say about Ukraine in this war. He said, Ukraine is like a drowning man. Anyone who has taken part in rescuing a drowning man knows that he is incredibly dangerous, that he can drag you down to the depths. That's a hell of an analogy. Ukraine is like a drowning man. So Poland knows if it gets into this war trying to rescue Ukraine, if it keeps provoking Russia, it can be annihilated too. The United States will not risk New York City and Washington, D.C. for Warsaw. In fact, that old quote for, I think it was Soros's back in the 90s, when he came up with his plan to say, instead of fighting Russia directly, it's better that we persuade these Eastern European countries to be our cannon fodder, to fight for us. So that's why the United States has all these Baltic countries and Poland, and they were sweet talking Ukraine. This is the reason, because you bring in all these weak ass countries who have no shot at beating Russia, and they bring nothing to the table militarily to boost NATO. What the hell does Lithuania do to make NATO stronger? Nothing. But they're cannon fodder, they're shields. So if something pops off, something larger than this war pops off, you can push these Eastern Europeans in front of you and have them do the dying, just like Ukraine is right now. And you can have the rest of them, Romanians, the Poles, the people up there in the Baltics. You can have them get devastated, their cities destroyed, their men die, while the UK men, the French men, the American men sit on the sidelines and watch. And maybe they come up with some other plan. But right now, Poland says, look, man, Ukraine is a drowning man and we don't want any part of it. We're done shipping weapons. In fact, Ukraine have pissed us off, so we're also done trading with them. And even Germany and Poland, they still have issues because, especially in the older population, a lot of the people in Poland still remember. They haven't forgiven Germany for what happened decades ago in World War II. United States is saying let bygones be bygones, but these people have decades-long animosity that has nothing to do with the Americans. And you can go even further back than that, back to the time of Prussia and back to the time of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. These people have issues that go back centuries. So they are cracks in the NATO armor. These people in Poland are accusing Germany of trying to control Poland. Some are accusing them of planting politicians to be in certain positions in the Polish government, even accusing Germany of pushing a certain candidate to try to be the next Polish president. They're saying Germany is trying to control their gas supply, their economy. And Germany offered to put U.S. Patriot systems in Poland. Poland didn't even want them coming over there, but the U.S. eventually made them do it. And one of the problems that this Germany-Polish rivalry, these issues have brought to this Ukrainian-Russian war, this American proxy war, is they stopped the idea of building a tank hub. They were going to build a logistics hub for the German Leopard 2 tank where they can ship tanks and do repairs and all that in Poland so the tanks could more rapidly be deployed to Ukraine. And Poland said, you know what, screw you, Germany. We don't want you here. And apparently Germany didn't even want to share some military tech with the Poles. So the deal's off. There will be no tank hub, as of now anyways. There will be no tank hub for the Ukrainians in Poland. Then you have another country that bordered Ukraine to Ukraine's west, Slovakia. They're done. They have a new president. He just came in and he ran on the premise that he's going to get out of this proxy war. His campaign slogan was not a single round, saying that they're not shipping any more weapons. Nothing to Ukraine. If Ukraine and Russia are going at it, hey, Slovakia, we're out of it. We're not about to be cannon fodder, because if Russia attacks Slovakia, this is the sentiment of the Slovakians. If they attack Slovakia, the United States will not send boots to the ground in Slovakia to save them. They don't want to have their cities ravished for America's proxy war. Another NATO member out of it. Obviously, we see what Turkey is doing. Turkey is playing both sides. Turkey is like a half member of NATO. Turkey has one of the largest militaries in the world, a key member because of its geography, a key member of NATO. But if things really pop off, nobody is confident that Turkey is going to take the side of NATO. Then you have the U.S. House divided. We saw what just happened with Kevin McCarthy. He just got ousted as Speaker of the House, and one of the main issues in this whole spending package they were going over was funding for Ukraine. Apparently, Kevin McCarthy made a backdoor deal with the Democrats to provide funding for Ukraine because the Republicans are tired of it. In fact, when Zelensky went to the UN to make his speech, first of all, nobody was even there. He was giving a speech to a room with a few people listening to him because nobody cares anymore. But he met with Senate leaders. He met with Schumer and McConnell. He wanted McCarthy to give him a session in front of the entire House. And McCarthy told Zelensky, no, we're not going to prop you up. So this is how much the support for Ukraine is waned. We went from Nancy Pelosi walking around the Capitol with the Ukrainian flag to now the House of Representatives won't even see this man. McCarthy said, hey, look, if one of y'all or two of y'all want to see him individually, y'all do that on your own time, but we're not interested in what Zelensky has to say because he's just about to come and beg for more taxpayer monies, and Americans, more and more Americans are becoming more hip to it and realizing that Zelensky is the biggest welfare queen in the United States. He just wants some more money. Then look at the UK. The UK Minister of Defense, which is their equivalent for Secretary of Defense, he just floated the idea of putting boots on the ground in Ukraine because they know that the Ukrainians have no chance. So he's floating the idea of sending British men in there to support the war. And he was immediately slapped down by the British people, the British media. And then his prime minister came out there and tried to clean up what he said. The prime minister said, not the here and now, because the Russians said, if you send British soldiers to Ukrainian soil, they're going to be legitimate targets. If you send your men over here trying to help the Ukrainians fight us, they're going to be killed too. So once we kill your men, are you going to send more? Are we going to be at full-blown war? UK wanted nothing to do with it. So the prime minister is trying to say, no, after the war is over with, long after it's over with, after everything's settled, then we can send some advisors over there to talk to the Ukrainian soldiers. So UK is not trying to fight Russia, man. They're not going to send boots to the ground. And this is another indicator for countries like Slovakia and Hungary and Poland. They're realizing that if they get hit, there's not going to be a savior coming for them. And look at Hungary. Hungary knows that this is a lost cause and all you're doing is just wasting lives. The blood of Ukrainian men wasted. Let's look at what the Hungarian president had to say.
He was invaded by Russia, the very country, you grew up with pictures of tanks going into Budapest. Why are you opposing the European aid?
No, it's emotionally, it's tragic. So we, all of our heart is with the Ukrainians. We understand how much they suffer, but I'm speaking here as a politician who should save lives. So the most important thing for the international political community is to save lives, especially when you are convinced, as I do, that there is no chance to win this war. So therefore, what we should do far more energy invest into to convince everybody that the only solution is ceasefire. And then after the ceasefire, peace talks should start. And then we could, back to your point, yeah?
But do you really think there is no chance of Ukraine winning?
That's
and
my
surely
point.
they stand very little chance of winning without the aid which you are currently blocking.
No, my position is that looking at the reality, looking at the figures, looking at the surroundings, looking at the fact that NATO is not ready to send troops, it's obvious that there is no victory for poor Ukrainians on the battlefield. That's my position. That was always my suggestion to everybody, that instead of to manage to have a stronger involvement into the war, escalation should be stopped, and we should argue in favor of peace and negotiation.
This is just a war of attrition. The United States is running out of weapons quickly. They're pulling weapons from South Korea at this point because South Korea and North Korea had millions of weapons, rounds, ammunition, artillery left over from their war decades ago. United States took weapons, seized weapons from Iran, and they're sending those weapons over there, those rounds, to Ukraine. Even though the Americans say, oh, Iran is trash, their weapons ain't worth crap, they're sorry, but you're sending Iranian weapons over there for Ukrainian use. The United States defense production is not ready for this type of war. So the United States is too accustomed to these light wars. Last 30 years, you've been over there in Africa and the Middle East fighting these countries. And it doesn't take much of American firepower to take down a bunch of cave-dwelling goat herders. But when you get into a full-blown war with a modern military, it takes enormous weapons production, and the United States defense industry will take years of investment to ramp up to even get to the point where it can do that. They're running low on the Javelin missiles, the HIMARS, MLSR rockets, the 155 ammunition. They're so limited on so much of this stuff they're taking from their own units. So the United States units can't adequately train. All of them can't, because they've taken systems and weapons from their own units and shipped them over there to Ukraine. They've given 30%, allegedly 30% of their artillery fire to Ukraine. And the crazy part is, it's not even worth it. It's far less than what Russia is fighting. Russia is reportedly firing 10x artillery rounds compared to Ukraine. And that's one of the reasons for the casualty difference, because Russia just has way more firepower. Russia is ramping up way quicker than all of NATO combined. And this is one of the major reasons why NATO isn't ready for this war, and why a lot of these Eastern European countries are starting to pull back their support. The U.S. Army War College just put out a call to action. They did an analysis, and they're estimating that if the United States was at war with Russia in this type of environment, the United States would suffer 3,600 casualties per day. They're saying that the United States is not ready for this level of war, and the United States has a lot of preparation to do. They are learning a lot of lessons from watching Ukraine. The United States is giving Ukraine all of these strategies, do this, do that. This is how you run a counteroffensive, and all of these things are not working against the Russian army, and the United States is analyzing it, even if they use certain systems that they didn't give to Ukraine, like the F-35, the F-16s. They're estimating thousands of U.S. casualties per day, and they will have to recruit over 800 people a day just to replace that. And these are levels of casualties that the American public would not allow. 3,600 a day, you're talking about within a few days, you would outpace 20 years in the Middle East. So all of these countries, they're looking at this, they notice that the defense planners, they're aware of the reality of the situation, no matter how hard Western media tries to gaslight people. But we'll see what happens. So the mud season is approaching soon. It's about to start raining over there in Ukraine. Things are going to get bogged down. Things might slow down. And last year they had a relatively mild winter. They're not predicting such a mild winter this time. We're going to see how that works with the gas trade over there with like the Germans and the Poles, how much they really need that cheap Russian gas versus this expensive gas that the United States has to ship over there. But these Ukrainians, the leadership, they were dumb anyway, because they should have never bought into this Western fantasy. You're going to be part of us. You're going to be with NATO. Screw Russia. We know that you guys are the same people, the Russians and Ukrainians. You guys are Slavic brothers, but screw them. Let us use you as cannon fodder so we can study our weapons. We can study techniques. We can study strategies. We can try to weaken Russia while hundreds of thousands of your men die. The best thing Ukraine could do is separate itself from this fantasy sold to them by the West, make peace with Russia, with Belarus, and don't fall into that Western crap again. But I don't know if that's going to happen with Zelensky. And right now, there's a lot of hostility in Ukraine against Zelensky, especially in the Ukrainian army. So they might get rid of him. They might run a coup on him. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. But hey, before you go, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video. Thank you for watching.
You